My name is Melvin Peter Weyhrich. I'm from the U.S. Air Force, retired. I served 31 years in the Army, Air Force, and the Air Force combined. From 1943 to 1945, that was during the war years. We were in training all this time. We had finished B-17 flight training in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we were sent to Lincoln, Nebraska to form up our crews to go to Europe. The war ended while we were at Lincoln, so never did see combat in that direction. But what happened later on, they sent me to China, and in June of 1946, and I served in China 2.5 years, leaving there in January of 1949 when the communists took over the country. I'd taken my girlfriend to a skating rink party, and on my way home I stopped in the filling station to fill up my father's car with gasoline, and the filling station attendant said, "The Japanese just bombed Pearl Harbor," with several thousand casualties, sunk a lot of ships, and okay. I said, "Where's Pearl Harbor?" And that was about it. I joined the Army Air Force Aviation Cadet Program in June of 1943. Went to flight school. We all graduated from flight school in Pecos, Texas in December of 1944. And then we went many different directions. I went to Las Vegas, Nevada to team up with the B-17 crew, where we flew the B-17 for some time. As I mentioned earlier, then we went to Lincoln, Nebraska to form up our crews in preparation to going to England. While we were there at Lincoln, the war in Europe ended. They didn't ask me where. They sent me to the Pacific, to China. Well, at that time, it was a huge airplane, a 4-engine aircraft. To many of us, we'd only flown a 2-engine trainer. So it was quite a new experience. To have a big crew, have ability to carry bombs. I forget how many gunners we had on board. And we did a lot of flying there in Las Vegas. They did a lot of gambling in Las Vegas. In fact, we called it Lost Wages rather than Las Vegas. Well, after we finished at Lincoln and the war ended, they sent some of us to Blytheville, Arkansas. They didn't have B-17s there, but they had C-46s. And so we transitioned into C-46s and graduated from that. They sent me to Pope Field, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. They didn't have any C-46s there, but they had C-47s. So I more or less checked myself out in the C-47, stayed there for some time, and by then I was married. My wife was with me, and from there I went to China. I don't think I did. It wasn't until Vietnam that I had a pretty good one, and that was a mid-air collision almost. Most of them have passed away. We're all in our 90s, and most have passed away. There are a couple yet around, as far as I know. Yeah, you make some pretty close friends. I really don't recall. It was such a mixed up. We were dodging bullets from the nationalists and the communists at that point. Japanese were just about finished. The communists had beaten them, and they were rounding up prisoners. And I guess it was about sometime in late '47. Could be wrong. I think it was in retaliation for what they did at Pearl Harbor. And it helped us end the war. If we hadn't dropped the bomb, it would have been massive casualties if we'd had to do it on the ground in Japan. The Japanese were ready. And it wasn't until we dropped the 2 bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that it really turned things around. And you know the odd thing about it though, in Japan, after the war was over, General MacArthur established his headquarters there in Tokyo. You could walk safely on the streets with not any fear of hostility from the Japanese people. Germans were the same way. I was in Germany in the 50s, and it was right after the war, and the place was in shambles yet from the bombing. Frankfurt was just about level, but the Germans were all friendly, at least the ones I ran into. That's a good question. Well, I think it taught us discipline, for one thing. Leadership, another. Self-sufficiency is another one. Responsibility. It's a good experience for any young person. It was kind of contrast to where I grew up. Well, it was training. I was in training all during for the most part, except we got to China. And then in Vietnam, it was an entirely different experience, we thought. Yeah, you met some very, very fine people. And we were provided with the very best of flight training. And it wasn't easy, but if you stuck with it, you made it. A good half of my class washed out of flight school. So you felt that you accomplished something when it was over with. I spent 6 years in the Pentagon. 2 different occasions, 3 years at a time. I was executive assistant to the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force. 3 of them, for a matter of fact. Very fine people, all John F. Kennedy appointees. One was a career civil servant. One was a PhD from Harvard Business School. The third one was a PhD from Stanford University. Both the latter 2 served in combat during World War II. One in Europe with Patton. He was in the tank operation. And the second guy from Stanford, he was in the South Pacific. So it was interesting. Well, it means a day of recognition. It makes you think that, well, you did what you did and you're proud of it. And it makes you think I wasn't a bit sorry doing it. A lot of guys gave up a lot of stuff to do it. But I was fortunate. It means everything. I hate to see those people burning them. I hate to see these NFL players not standing for the national anthem.